Pride Month is on the way, and events hosted by Pride Winnipeg and other organizations aren't only a celebration of the vibrancy of the human experience, they're a chance to educate. With recent policies across the country hurting the 2S LGBTQIA community, particularly those who identify as trans, education is more important than ever. Let's get into it.
So my name is Jen Rance. Pronouns are she and her. I'm currently the Vice President of Advocacy with Pride Winnipeg. I'm also the chair of the Manitoba Pride Alliance.
Why did you want to get involved? How long have you been involved as well?
Well, this will be my 5th year being involved with the festival. The reason why I joined was actually because I grew up in a rural community with not a lot of supports. So when I did move to pursue post-secondary education in a career, I ended up in a more urban center. So I was in Brandon first and then followed by Winnipeg. So there weren't a lot of supports growing up. And once I found my community, once I got to the larger centers here in Manitoba, I wanted to give back to that family that kind of just accepted you with open arms once you got here. So I've been with Pride for the last 5 years. Yeah,
that was a conversation I was having with Pembina Valley Pride as well. You know, a lot of these smaller communities, there's not many queer folk there, but coming together, they've been able to establish this community. And over the years, it's growing. People are exciting, and there's been a lot of supports there. So it's one of those things that, for many years, there weren't many different options, but we're starting to see a growing and thriving community here in Manitoba.
Absolutely. From a Pride Winnipeg perspective, we like to joke around the table that, we just throw a little party in the park for, 80 to 90,000 of our closest friends. But one of the initiatives that Pride Winnipeg has been focusing on this year, thanks to some provincial funding that we received, is something called the Manitoba Pride Alliance. And what that is, it's a way to bring all those smaller rural and northern prides together to share resources, to share knowledge, to have conversations around, either the successes or the struggles that folks are having. There's an educational component and a grant funding component around that as well. So we've had a lot of participation actually from all over the province, getting together to meet and find some common ground on how to deal with some of the issues that have been coming up in a lot of those rural communities, especially when it comes to the trans community.
That component of building community, connecting, and particularly that education component is so important because, we're hearing so much in the news recently, and there's a lot of misinformation, as you're mentioning, around the trans community. So having those resources, I think, is incredibly important and powerful here.
Absolutely. And coming from a rural place myself, a lot of what you still see, especially from some of the southern areas of Manitoba, is that those individuals grow up in those small communities and they can't stay. They don't have resources. They always eventually end up leaving. And that's tough for them because that's their community, that's their home, that's where they grow up. So the fact that, they have to leave all that behind and move to a bigger city just to find acceptance sometimes and find supports, it's tough, and that's something that really needs to change. And it is changing, albeit slowly, but we're making progress. But it would be nice for, those individuals to stay in those smaller rural communities, see themselves growing old there and doing things like that rather than just counting down the days until they leave.
Yeah, you want to be able to build a thriving community and have supports
Absolutely.
and individuals there in those communities, because otherwise it can feel like a desert sometimes. I know growing up, I felt oftentimes like, are there even any other queer folk here in the community with me? Are there other people who are feeling the way that I feel? So we want people to be able to stay in their hometowns if they want to, sort of thing. And because otherwise, as people grow up, they don't have a community there. They don't have individuals they can connect to or learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something like with increasing the amount of Pride celebrations across the province, it definitely helps bring awareness to that community and show 2S LGBTQ plus Manitobans that, there is support for them in their communities. And it's really the visibility that matters.
Definitely the visibility, normalizing things that feel outside of the norm. And I'm putting norm in quotation marks for those listening here, because the human experience is so vast and so vibrant, it doesn't fit into a small box of what we deem as normal.
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell me about what's happening this Pride Month here in Winnipeg, sort of the different events, or if there are some of those education elements that people can take advantage of as well?
The core events that the Pride Winnipeg Festival puts on, it starts on Friday, May 24th with a flag raising at City Hall at noon. This year, we are bringing back the Vigil. That will be on Sunday, May 26th. So what the Vigil is, it's a place for us to gather, to remember the folks that came before us, some of the folks that are unfortunately no longer with us. It's also kind of a place for us to celebrate how far we've come together and, the successes we've had as a community and reflect upon the struggles we've had as a community, both past and current. In terms of the Festival at the Forks, that kicks off on Saturday, June 1st. We've got a full day of programming on 3 stages. So there's the main stage, there's Mama Way stage, which is the new name for our community stage. That stage will feature local 2SQT BIPOC performers and artists. The programming on that stage starts at, I believe, 1 p.m. and goes till 7 p.m. on Saturday. Same for our main stage. And our kids stage also has programming starting at about the same time and runs till about 4:30 each day. In terms of beverage gardens and things like that, there's one at each of the main stage and at Mama Way stage. Then for Sunday, we have our rally at the Ledge, which starts at 10 a.m. Immediately following that is the parade. And then
always an exciting part
all day.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, it's one of those events that it's not just the parade. I mean, you have the Saturday event as well as on the 24th, the flag raising. So it's a great way to commemorate and ring in the upcoming Pride Month.
And it's not just the core Pride Winnipeg offered events that are happening. Over the next couple of weeks, there are dozens and dozens of community-led events that we are listing on both our website as well as the Pride Winnipeg app. If you're a mobile app user, I would recommend downloading it. We will have our schedules. There'll be information about all the performers, all the artisans and vendors that will be on site, our sponsors, even right down to, what each food truck is offering this year. So it really is the best place to find all the information that you need. But in terms of those community events, you're looking for something to do on pretty much any day of the week, any time of the day. There's well over 100 events in those 2 weeks that a lot of them are put on by, some great partners that we have, but the majority of those events are by grassroots community groups or, by more well-known research organizations like Rainbow Resource Center, for example.
Yeah, I think that's exciting seeing how Pride has grown just in my lifetime. And as I become more aware of it, like as a kid, didn't really hear much about it. Partially was because, I wasn't within that sphere yet, but seeing how it's growing and having such a wide array of different folks coming here and celebrating throughout the month.
This year, we're actually celebrating our 37th year. I feel old every year that goes by because I share the same birthday as the first Pride celebration in Winnipeg. So yeah, it started off as a very small group of people hanging outside the legislative building, waiting for a ruling that had to do with Manitoba Human Rights Council. So depending on which way the decision went that they were talking about that day, they were either going to protest or they were going to celebrate. So fortunately, they were able to celebrate, and it's grown from a very small gathering of just a few folks that, taking to the streets with, bags on their heads back in 1987 to now, we have a huge 2-week-long festival, and, just in the weekend, at the Forks alone, we see between 80 to 90,000 people show up to celebrate and show support for the community. So it's really grown, and it continues to grow every year.
Yeah, and I mean that's I think a significant part of it. It's celebrating the accomplishments that have happened and what's to come, but also, being prepared and being aware and increasing awareness around decisions and things being made in the world. Like there's so many scary stories that are coming out of the United States, and there's things that we're hearing about here in Canada as well. I wasn't aware of how long rights have been fought for just in Alberta alone. Like there's so much that it feels like years and years and years ago, but a lot of progress that has been made is really recent.
I mean, it's been a long time, and there's been, many generations of people before me that have had to, advocate for some of the very things that we're still advocating for today. And it's kind of unfortunate that, every few years we seem to regress a little bit. So in this case, we're seeing some anti-trans legislation being brought in. In Alberta, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, you're still seeing groups trying to push forward with book bans in libraries. And, even up until, 2 weeks ago, we're being targeted in the sense of, community members are having their flags stolen off their homes, and they're being burned. And definitely a little concerning to us as Pride organizers that, this kind of stuff is still happening. But it gives us all the more reason to keep doing what we do every day. We've definitely, seen things that have had to occur, not just in Winnipeg, but in other rural communities where we've helped support in terms of, security measures. We've had to really increase that over the last couple of years, just due to the current climate. We do our best to put on the safest festival we can. Just because some individual decides to, burn a progress flag doesn't make us want to stop doing what we're doing.
Exactly. And I mean, you want to be able to foster that sense of community and increase awareness because, you never know when someone's there. There's that opportunity for them to learn more about the vibrancy of the rainbow community, educate themselves, and maybe eventually become an ally themselves as well.
Absolutely. It's every year we run into new families that are, coming to check out the festival for this first time. And, they had no idea that it's such a welcoming environment. They had no idea we had a full zone dedicated to families. They had no idea how much fun, the parade was just as a spectator, never mind, to participate. Yeah, it's really great to see the amount of allies coming out to support year after year and not being afraid to ask questions, right? It's the perfect environment to, if you don't quite understand something, someone will teach you. Just have to come in with an open mind and be respectful. And
May 24th is the flag raising, and then June 1st and 2nd are kind of the big Pride events. For Winnipeg Pride, I mean, we have these events that are coming up, but are there things that you're engaged with throughout the year past just this kickoff to Pride?
So in part of the funding that we received from the provincial government, we were able to hire our first ever executive director this year back in January. So part of our strategy moving forward is to have year-round programming, have a smaller set of events throughout the year, starting off with the festival. So it's always been a long-term goal of Pride Winnipeg to have that year-round programming. So things like galas or evening out events and things like that. We're definitely looking into that with our special events team. So that was something to look forward to and to stay tuned for. We do offer the app year round, and we do our very best to keep all the community events there as kind of just a one-stop shop for what's going on in the community. So we really want to leverage that as well.
With the festival coming up, what part are you most excited about?
That's a very loaded question. Leading into it, as an organizer, you think that your favorite part is going to be when it's all over and you can rest again, but that's not the reason why. The end is my favorite part because it's a chance for us as organizers, to look around and see, this is our community. This is why we do what we do. Everybody's here. It's like a giant family reunion, and just to know that we were able to give the space to our community to be able to celebrate in a safe way, in as bright and as colorful as our community is, reflect that in our festival. So just to take a good look around before the site clears that, we were able to pull this off.
So if someone's hearing this, and I know it's a little close to the date, but if someone's hearing this and they're like, I want to get involved, is it still possible for people to volunteer for the upcoming Pride events? And are there opportunities for them to be involved year round?
So in terms of volunteering, we do still have our volunteer applications open. We are pretty full, but just as any volunteer gig goes, we always have cancellations. Pretty much anything you can think of, we need in terms of volunteers. All of the positions that we have, we offer the training for. A lot of it's just show up and we train you for the task. Nothing super complicated, but the more bodies, the better. We really struggled post-pandemic with keeping volunteers, and it really seems that the volunteers are starting to come back this year. So we definitely do encourage volunteers during the festival, but we also have lots of opportunities to join our board as well if you want to be more involved with planning the event and being involved in the community year round. You can just simply visit our website for board opportunities. I know we will have some positions opening up after the festival, so definitely keep an eye on that.
Fantastic. Jen, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. For people who are excited about the upcoming Pride events or other programmings across the province, I know you're mentioning an app. Where can people go to get more information?
Yeah, so in terms of any sort of need to know information, you can follow our social media leading up to the festival, but our website, which is pridewinnipeg.com, and our mobile app for sure. Well, that's your best place to find any information.
Have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight? Leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.